Many people who grew up in the 70s remember the first video game to be Pong. This is only due to the fact that Pong was released to the public in 1972. Little to no people are familiar with William Higinbotham, who created what I consider the actual first video game in 1958. Tennis for Two. Two people play this electronic tennis game with separate controllers that are linked to an analog computer that uses an oscilloscope for a screen. William uses transistors to construct a fast-switching circuit that would alternately display the three outputs from the computer onto the screen at a super fast speed of 36 Hz. At that rate, the eye sees the ball, the net, and the court as one picture rather than three independent images. The reasoning for creating this game was to reach out to people by having something entertaining and interactive for them to understand that scientific research is important to society. According to William, it took him only 2 hours to sketch out the design, and a short couple of days to fill it in. Bob Dvorak, a Brookhaven lab worker, pieced it together in about 3 weeks, and the two of them debugged it in a day or two. There are a few mistakes in this design scheme here, though. We know that Higinbotham and Dvorak must have discovered and fixed these flaws, but sadly, the men never bothered to record their solutions. An oscilloscope contains an internal electron beam that passes through X and Y plates. The electrons are essentially bent backwards and forwards between the plates to create a pattern on the screen. The movement of electrons on the screen is caused by alternating currents. Each controller had a dial for regulating the angle of a hit and a separate button that returns the ball to the last player to score service position. The ball's motion was generated by 4 of the computer's operating amplifiers, while the remaining 6 amplifiers recognized when the ball touched the ground or the net and switched control to the person in whose court the ball was placed. If the ball is not touched by the user, feedback between the input and output of the first integrator adds an air resistance component, causing the ball to lose energy over time. On October 18, 1958, during one of Brookhaven National Laboratory's annual visitor days, the game was released to the public. Creative Computing magazine featured a report on the game in its October 1982 edition. The equipment that goes into this game weighed several hundred pounds. The oscilloscope display was only 5 inches in diameter when it was initially released. Sadly, the game was eventually canceled and disassembled, with its pieces reused for various projects around the lab after a few years. For the 50th anniversary of the game's debut release, a replica of the original Tennis for Two was built, which is on display at the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York as part of the eGame Revolution exhibit.